Well, as Arsenal await tomorrow at the London Stadium, we're here to have a little chat, preview slightly the game tomorrow and have an overall West Ham chat about all things the Hammers tonight. Welcome back to West Ham Official. Hope you are all well. We've got a very special guest tonight. Sean Whetstone is joining me. Sean, how are you?
I'm good, yeah. Looking forward to the game tomorrow. As my friends say, a good day out spoilt by 90 minutes of football. But we never know. We could just have that very strange result that we're the banana skin for Arsenal. Wouldn't that be great?
Somebody's got to be that banana skin. Somebody's got to bring a peculiar result out of them. We thought Bournemouth might do a few weeks ago.
Look at what Bournemouth are doing. Who would they've beat. They beat everyone, haven't they? They're just pulling out a miracle run, and that really could mean Everton or Nottingham Forest going down. I mean, it's not looking good for Leicester City, is it?
No.
Either losing today despite a change of manager.
There's still a few clubs around there, and up until a good few weeks ago, we've not been able to really separate the pack down there, and I think we can with a sort of little bit more ease now. You could probably separate Southampton from the rest of the pack, and you've got Leicester down
Southampton
there
are down
as well.
I think Nottingham Forest will join them, and for me, it's between Everton and Leicester City now.
Yeah. And there seems to be a sort of, attitude change in the fan base as well. Because I sat here before the Fulham game last weekend and went, we need to get something here. Otherwise, we are looking as bad as, the rest of the teams down there. But there just seems to be a little bit of an attitude change.
It wasn't a pretty result, was it? But, a win's a win. And I think that made, a 10th place Fulham, who did earlier better in the season. It's a really important one. And I really do believe, without being complacent, that we will survive now.
Yeah. I said that, and it wasn't pretty at all last weekend. And yes, none of it's been convincing at all. And it wasn't on Thursday night, I didn't think either. But I just feel like we're gonna have enough there now with those sides. And Nottingham Forest have got Man United. Well, I know we've got Arsenal, but Nottingham Forest have got Manchester United down there. And I think we're going to have enough, along with Bournemouth, to stay up. But playing them next weekend as well is going to be a very, very difficult game. Coming
it is, isn't it?
One
it
and
is.
Europe on Thursday.
Yeah, looking forward to them both, really.
How do you sort of look at our chances going into tomorrow then? A free hit? Is that what you call it?
We just said off air, isn't it? It's a free hit. Look, we know what Moyes will do. He doesn't know the vocabulary of a free hit, does he? So he's set up defensively, which is a shame because, when you're playing the league leaders, you just want to go. Do you know what? They expect us. They're going to set up their stall for us to try and stop their game. They're going to know we're going to probably play 11 men behind the ball.
Yeah.
We're going to try and be ultra defensive here, say, do not concede, and see if we can grab one on the break that will never come, and hope for a 0-0 ball draw. But, wouldn't it be a fresh breath of air if he just went, no, we're going to go for it, 4-4-2. Doesn't matter about goal difference. Doesn't matter. Do you know what? And I think a lot of West Ham fans would be really respectful, even if we lost 3 or 4-0, if we went for it. He'd get a lot of respect, but he won't. Let's be honest, Jake. He won't, and it's going to be an awful watch. But you know what? Lucky break, penalty, whatever you want to call it. We get an early goal, and I think we could get on, Arsenal's nerves, and try and get something. A draw or a cheeky 1-0 win. It's not going to happen, but we can all dream, can't we?
Yeah. And I said to somebody earlier, wouldn't it be refreshing if we came out and maybe if it was more luck than anything else, but we went for it a bit. We had a couple of early chances. And I think, from what people were saying, when we got that goal back against Newcastle, when we leveled things up and we were going into half time, level, and there was something on the game or one goal beyond, whatever it was, but the place was starting to get up a bit. And, it has been very much soulless at a lot of points this season, that stadium. But a bit of attacking mentality and maybe a free curly goal can get the crowd up, can get things going. They can get it bouncing in there. We know it's not going to happen, but we just, we never hope.
We saw this with Newcastle, where, we saw an early, I think it was all of 6 minutes, where the crowds were right behind the team, weren't they?
Yeah.
And then it sort of faded away. And it can turn toxic quite quickly, can't it? It's been a strange season. I sit in the West End section 112, right next to the away fans in the lower. I don't know where you sit, Jake, but it's been quiet there. There hasn't been many where we've sung, but Newcastle was one of them, and we're quite up for it. It's been flat, not a lot of singing, a lot of nervousness, a little bit of booing, and I don't think that helps. I think we've got obligation, if I dare call it that, to be the 12th man and get behind the team. And I do hope, despite it being Arsenal, that we do get behind the team and try and be the 12th man, at least for the first 6 minutes anyway.
Yeah. I've got a couple of questions sent in from someone who's a good friend of mine, and I think he's a good friend of yours as well. To start off with, he said, can Sean tell us...
Well, who is it first? I'll tell you whether he's a friend of mine or not.
You've got to guess.
All right, I will try.
Can Sean tell us how sausages are made and explain his saying?
Well, that could be anyone. Look, a long time ago, back in sort of 2011, before we moved, I started working on what was the supporters advisory board before the move, and I moved to the official supporters board, and I got to know a lot of people in the club, directors, owners, senior management, and other people, and you get to know how things work, right? And sometimes it's not always pretty. It spoils the sort of illusion. So that's where the saying comes: we don't talk about how sausages are made, because if we did, it's much more worse than anyone could ever imagine, Jake. It really is. So, yeah, well, it's my saying on the podcast, on our West Ham podcast, More Than Just Podcast, to say we don't talk how sausages are made. And we don't talk how sausages are made. You know why we don't talk why sausages are made?
I can imagine it, yeah.
You wouldn't eat sausages if you knew how they were made. Yeah, that's why. Exactly. Do you eat sausages?
I do.
Yeah. If you saw, you look at YouTube, look how sausages are made, you won't eat sausages again. So we don't talk how sausages are made.
Oh, fair enough. And the second one is, how did Sean and Nigel become such good friends, considering they are polar opposites?
Well, again, it goes back to 2011. When we both joined the SAB, the Supporters Advisory Board, in 2011, which was being formed by about 100 fans before the move to what was the Olympic Stadium. Nigel was on the committee called Hughes View against the move. So he's one of the lead agitators or campaigners, let's call it, against the move. And I found myself as the chairman of the London Stadium group of the Supporters Advisory Board. So it was my job to chair the subcommittee meetings, write a report for the board about the move. So we found ourselves on opposite sides, right? And we were at the bowling ground at a meeting, one of the first meetings, and we knew each other from social media, but didn't really know each other. And we met each other for a bar. And I can't remember, he might tell the story that I bought him a drink, a Peroni, 2 bottles of Peroni, or he bought me a bottle of Peroni. I can't remember who bought the drinks. But we had a few Peronis in the bowling ground at the bar, and we've been friends ever since. We do the podcast together. I'm the news editor on his site, 6'2", the news site, and we may have opposite views on lots of things, and we do. But that's part of the fun of it, right? We're still friends, even though we've got opposite views. He's got different views to the board than I do, and if you've listened to the podcast, you'll hear us argue about them, and we bicker. His wife says I'm his work wife or whatever. Every day, Sean, that I speak to him more than he speaks to her. But
I see. Any guesses where they come from then?
That will probably be either someone like Dodsey or is it Dodsey?
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
there you go. Of course, it's Dodsey.
Very good, very good. Thank you very much, Rich, for sending those over. If you are watching, let's see. We've got the chat and see what you guys are saying. Lawrence, hope you are over in the US. Well, we'll come back to that one a little bit later. Managers, we'll come back to that later. We'll worry about that in just a second. Firstly, Kent says Bournemouth are being brave, he says Bournemouth are being brave, playing risks and reward football. Goals pay the rent and keep you up. They're going for it against these big sides, you know, and they were incredibly unfortunate against Arsenal last month. You know, they've gone and beat Spurs today. You know, that's back-to-back away wins. I think they beat Leicester last weekend as well. I've got some hope there, Bournemouth, Sean.
Yeah, look, they are going for it, and you know, I guess where it's sort of failing for Moyes is he has been around a long time and he has got a lot of experience, but he's a one-trick pony, and he's sort of been found out. You know, can't take it away. You know, he came in and steadied the ship on his first time, and then he came back after Pellegrini, and a lot of people would have told the ball to piss off. He came back and he's got us in Europe twice. You know, let's not take that away from him. You know, and we've had a 6th place finish and a 7th place finish, but you know, his recruitment has not worked out with Rob Newman, his choice, Rob Newman, and he's not made the transition. But it's not just about recruitment; it's about tactics. And you've just mentioned Bournemouth, and he just seems to be really, really stubborn and say, "This is the way I do it. I know better than you. I've been around longer." It's like me patronising you and going, "You know, you're young. You don't know anything about West Ham." It's not the way. We need to be open-minded. You know, we need to be open to new ideas. And I just wonder whether David Moyes is devoid of them now. You know, I don't think it's right to swap him before the end of the season, but I think the board have to take a real hard look in the summer. And look, we want, and I'm sure you remember when we took Slaven Bilic as manager, we had some really good games, didn't we? You know, there was that really expansive football and we went for it. And that's all we want as West Ham fans. We want someone to go for it, right? We know we might lose more games than we win, but we want to have pride that our team went out there and gave it a go.
Yeah. And I think as well, you know, instead of the sort of, and I think it like sort of seeps through to the atmosphere and what we have in the stadium is, you know, we're all going to be turning up tomorrow going like this a little bit, you know, but you know, back when we played a bit more expansive football, go, you know what, we might turn them over today, we might give them a go, it's going to be exciting, not turning up going, well, we're going to park 11 men behind the ball and see what happens.
Well, that's it. You know, I refer you to the answer I gave some time ago. 90 minutes of a good day out sport by 90 minutes of football. We all sort of know. You know, we meet up, including Dodsey usually at the supporters club, right? And we have a good time. We have a good chat and a few drinks and something to eat before the game. So you know, I'll be leaving at 9:30, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'll be at the sports club by midday, good 2 hours before, you know. So, you know, it's about the whole match day experience. But then I'll be dreading come 2 o'clock. I'll go, oh my God, just got to get through these 90 minutes of dross. And then we can, you know, maybe have a few beers and before we go home again.
Yeah, I just forget about it. it. Here we go. How did you know it was Rich, Sean?
Because he's probably, you know, he likes to get his fingers in a lot of pies. So I don't watch a lot of YouTube stuff, and I was just trying to think. Was it Nigel? No, he wouldn't have phrased it like that. Was it Canning Town Len? No, he probably is painting. So I thought it's got to be Rich, who's just got back from Belgium, obviously as well.
He has.
He does the miles. He does the miles.
As you said, Rich, on a couple of videos, probably one too many to drink, just the one, Rich. Over the 3 days over there, I hope you had a grand old time over there. The problem, Kent says, the problem in the West Ham regarding singing and banter with away fans is that wall. One thing I did want to discuss is the atmosphere, because many people have mentioned this, and and I think it's something that the fans care about, you know, because it's every other week, you know, we've got to go over there, and people don't enjoy the experience. You know, that's just undeniable. People don't enjoy as much going over there and watching us. Maybe it's the style of football we've played this season as well, but many people have sort of requested maybe safe standing and Bobby Moore lower, something to you know, sort of rejuvenise and get some sort of atmosphere in there, along with knocking that wall down as well.
Yeah, the wall's not going to get knocked down. It was put up because of our European, you know, the missiles that were thrown over, as you know. And I wrote to the chair of the London Stadium Supporters Advisory Group, a person called Sheila Roberts, who works for Newham Council, and asked her, you know, why it got put down, and you know, it cost over 120 grand or something, and you know, and you know, UEFA obviously weren't happy with it, and it was the European clubs causing the problems and mostly throwing the missiles. Unfortunately, tit for tat, we threw a few back, and that's what happens in those kind of tribal situations. But you know, they're not going to do it. They didn't see that any other material, netting or perspex, etc., would do the job, but now they spent the money, it's not going to happen. No. Look, it is a shame. I can see over it, and just be a little bit selfish, right? And I know, unfortunately, Richard is one of those people affected. It affects about 100 people, maybe 200 people that sit in section 113. I'm in section 112. We can see over the top. We can still sing and make signs and wave to the away fans that did at the Newcastle game. One of my staff is a Newcastle season ticket holder, and I saw him, and I was making various gestures to him. So I can still see over the wall. But Dodsey can't, and his friends around him can't. So it affects the people right in the shadow of the wall. But when you think about it, 62,500, it's a real shame for the 200 people who wanted to be next to the away fans to get the atmosphere, and now they've got this big wall. But unfortunately, it doesn't affect the majority of the 62,500, and therefore nothing's going to change. And it's there to stay. So they've got an option to move. Or put up through of it, really, unfortunately.
Well, we'll see what Rich says coming back to that. Mark says, do you think we will ever own a stadium, Sean? Now, that is a big kettle of fish.
It is. And I was asked this question recently on Talk TV. And
Television Star now as well.
And I'll be on this Sunday at 7 o'clock. Talk TV with Mark Staggers. Look, the short answer is no. And the reason very simply is it financially is a basket case. You know, we've spent, the taxpayer, London taxpayer, and that's not me, by the way, because I live in Surrey, but the London taxpayer has spent over £1 billion building it twice. Now, you could say the first 484 million were for the Olympics, so it doesn't really count, but it's still taxpayers' money, right? Then we rebuilt it again. We paid another 380 million to rebuild it a second time to make it fit for football, right? If you want to call it that. Put the roof on, etc. Since then, right, the way we get to £1 billion is it's been losing on average £30 million every single year. Yeah. And then that's how we get to £1 billion. So here's something that the London taxpayers have paid £1 billion. And suddenly you're going to give it to West Ham for next to nothing. And then we look at West Ham's side of it, and West Ham will say, well, we're not paying anything for it. We'll pay you £1 for it if you give us some money. But the reason, and I'll just go back a bit. The London E20, who owns the London Stadium, just announced their figures of like £60 million loss for this year. And one of the reasons is what they call onerous contracts. The onerous contracts are West Ham and Delaware North, the caterers, and UK Athletics. And when you look at it, they lose money because of these contracts. They've got provisions of 250 million. So unless the government, the taxpayers, are prepared to give West Ham a subsidy of, let's say, I know, 10 or 20 million pound a year and sell them the stadium for £1, West Ham would be balmy financially to buy it. However, right, and here's the big however, we don't need to buy it we can lease it. And if you look at Man City do not own the Etihad. They lease it for 250 years, and they pay I think it's about £10 million a year. They can do what they want with it in the lease. They can put the stands, they can make they run it, they do the stewarding, they own the naming rights, which they sell for well over £10 million a year. and that is a model that could work. So I think long term, because of the LLDC, who's going to disappear in 2025, will want to get rid of it, and we could get a long lease, a 100-year lease for the London Stadium. The onerous contracts like UK athletics, catering, etc., will stay somewhere else, and some of those toxic liabilities will stay with the taxpayer and the government, and we will just get a long lease. And maybe then we can see that we can run stewarding better, we can sell the naming rights, and we can be more efficient than a government that can't run organise a piss up in a brewery, as the saying goes. So it's a long answer, Jake, but no, I don't think we're in our lifetime we won't see West Ham own it, but we might see them take a long lease in the same model as Man City.
There we go, Mark. That is the breakdown of that. Kent says Ghent was a fantastic day out. Loved it despite the performance on the pitch. Glad you had a good trip, mate. Yeah, From the videos that people like Rich sent us, it did look like a good old trip over there. So
Dodsey said that as well. I went to Frankfurt for the semi-final last year, and it was amazing 4 days away. So, and according to Dodsey, there was maybe 4,000 people over in Belgium for that 1,000 tickets, and quite a few people I think found themselves in the Ghent end as well.
Yes.
As well.
Yes, I did see a few pictures and videos of those risking it in there as well. Right, Rich says, Sean, what are your 3 biggest regrets with your involvement? Reference the move to the stadium. Are we seeing another in joke here?
Well, he's trying to goad me into talking about look. There's no doubt that we were over marketed, and we were sold. I always say their ambitions. So when the chairman and the owners, Golden Sullivan, sort of talked about next level football, I think that those sayings are unfortunate. World-class stadium, world-class transport links. I do regret my part in in perpetuating that marketing element of it. If hindsight's a wonderful thing, though. But we were all led to believe what we were led to believe at the time. I still believe it was the right move for the club. I still believe it's, it will take us further. But financially, it didn't make that much difference. It has grown. Who would have said at that time we'll have grown our base to we've got highest sellout, second highest capacity in the Premier League at 62,500 sold out. People say it couldn't be done. So I mean, there have been successes, but we were sold a pup. We were marketed. I hate the word lied to. I think we were sold. We've mixed up the word promises and ambitions, and therefore the owner's ambitions got mixed up as promises. And anyone really sensible enough would go, yeah, well, we all wish we could win, get in the Champions League and everything. Of course, that's an ambition, but I try not to have too many regrets in life, Dodsey. Actually,
I don't think many people sort of went on and went, when we're moving, of course, we're going to have Champions League football in 3 years' time. I don't think anybody, sort of really thought, oh, cool, that's going to happen. Happy days. 3 years' time, we're going to be welcoming Real Madrid, Barcelona, and all this lot to this new stadium we're going to. I don't think anybody sort of, took that in the full sort of capacity that maybe some people would have thought, but we are where we are now, and I think we've got to make the changes, make the adaptations to make this our home. And we ain't going back now. As hard as it is, we ain't going back. We are staying here for a long time, and And that's why I think trying to sort of make this more,
mate, you're right.
more of, trying to make this more of our stadium is what we've got to do at the end of the day.
The football club's bigger than the owners and bigger than the fan base. It will be there when we're dead and buried. And, people have two choices. If they don't like it, they can either not go, right? And a lot of people I know don't go anymore, but they're replaced. They might not like that, but you can't vote with your feet because the brand of Premier League is so big. They'll either be filled with more fans coming in or tourists, and that's not just West Ham. That's Arsenal, that's Chelsea, etc. So those seats will always be filled as long as we're in the Premier League. That is. That's another question. So you might vote for your feet and go, I'm not renewing my season ticket, as Canning Town Len has said he is, but your seat will be filled by someone else. And in the end, I was asked, when will the London Stadium stop being a thing? And the answer is when everybody who remembers the bowling ground dies. I know that's a bit morbid, but it's true. No one goes on about the Memorial Ground or Hermit Road or where we played before. In the end, and I think there's still people at Arsenal that go on about Highbury. So I don't think it ever ends. Some people will never accept it as a home, but in the end, that generation will die out. A new generation will replace it.
Question in here: who is your favourite all-time player and manager?
So player is my personal one is Tony Cottee. In the 80s, probably my favourite time of going. When I was, how old are you, Jake?
15.
15. So when I'm trying to remember how old I was in 1986. I was a little bit older than 15, but I started going to West Ham on my own around 15. My son's 16, and we used to go to the South Bank on the terraces. And that year when we finished third, I had a great time. I miss the terraces, going and watching West Ham win all the games we did and get so close to winning. What was obviously Division 1 at the time, because before the Premier League existed, was a great time. And Tony Cottee was part of that, and he's always been my hero. And I've met him a few times and interviewed him. He was part of the SAB as well, so I met him a few times. Manager, and without a doubt, it's got to be John Niall. Again, it's a bit of an era thing, because he was that manager throughout the 80s. In my lifetime, obviously, we won the FA Cup twice, and obviously we're in a final another time in 2006. So with Pardew, but it's got to be John Niall and Tony Cottee.
Fair enough. Kent says, Sean, if we did go down, how many people do you think would attend games? And many people have sort of looked at this and went, we probably fill out the bottom tier, and then the top tier would be a little bit like touch and go.
It's an interesting one. Our rent, the agreement with the London Stadium is our rent halves. So notionally it was 2.5 million. It's index linked, so it's more than that now. We pay 3.6, but it halves. So it was 1.25 with index link. It's probably going to be close to 1.75 million. It's neither here or there. But the biggest loss for the London Stadium comes with the stewards. They employ over 1,000 stewards. It costs them nearly £250,000 every single West Ham game.
Jeez.
For stewarding and security and operations. So you're absolutely right. And we saw this. Did you go to the FA Youth semi-final the other day?
Yeah.
It was a good game. You see, what they did was they opened the West Stand, didn't they? 7,000 people only. That's a lot cheaper to steward. And you're absolutely right. Because if you could get away with it, right? If you could get away with only opening the lower tier, which I think from memory is about 25,000,
right?
Then they would try and do that, but that it gets a bit difficult because how do people renew their season tickets if they're in the upper? If we went down, I think it logistically it would be very difficult to only open the lower, to move everybody around and fit them all in and change the pricing. And I also do think we would get over 25,000 in the championship. We're a loyal bunch, I'm trying to think. 15 years. You have seen relegation. You were too young though, weren't you?
Very young, yeah.
I've enjoyed some of the years going. Oh, it's a terrible thing to say. I've enjoyed going because do you know what? When you're in the Championship, you win most games,
You win,
right?
yeah.
It's great, and you go to grounds that you don't usually go to. You could get away tickets, and therefore I've quite enjoyed our little, as long as it's only a season or two, and of course we've ended up with 3, not Wembley because one Wembley for Blackpool, but we went to the Millennium Stadium because the Wembley Stadium was being rebuilt. We get our away day for a big final, so I wouldn't wish it on us, but I can think of worse things, and I think that we met half. But I still see us getting somewhere between 30 and 35,000, even 40,000 every week in the Championship.
Yeah,
rather than the 62,000.
Yeah, I sort of put the ballpark out there of around 30 to 40,000. It would be, if we did go, it would be something like that. But hopefully, we won't need to contend with that, obviously. And I've got a map with all the stadiums in the 92 out there. And if we did go down, I'd fill out.
There you go.
I'll be able to scratch off a lot more.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I do think we will have it.
And no better, and again, a worse thing to say, but no better club is better to go down than we are financially. We've paid off all our debts. We've got no net debt. We've got really hardly any bank debts to talk to after Kredinsky put his money in. We paid off the shareholder loans. And therefore, and again, terrible to say, we're in a really good financial position to, if we were relegated. Probably out of all the people down at the bottom, we are the best place financially to be relegated.
Yeah.
Let's hope it never comes to that, though.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's see what's got the chat. Anton, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I don't know whether he's calling me or you the Prawn Sandwich Brigade because we were in a box for the Southampton game, but...
I wasn't, so there you go. It must be you.
back in Bobby Moore lower tomorrow, Anton. Don't you worry about that. No, he was referencing you, not me, sure.
Oh, really? Do you know what? I don't go to. Well, occasionally, when it's offered to me. I think I've been to the London Stadium corporate maybe 4 times when I've been invited. I do Spurs Way, and I do Chelsea Way every year because I know someone who's got a box. I do Spurs Away. That's about it. That's the only corporate I do, really.
Oh, that's fair enough.
So shut up, man, Tom. What do you know?
It was my first corporate experience the other week for the Southampton game. It was just sat
was
there.
it? Which where were you?
Oh Christ, what's it called? I can't remember. Dad, what's it called? I can't remember. It won't come to me. I forgot. Mine's gone blank.
You got the Great Britain. You got the Arnold Hills Lounge. You got the bowling bar. You got
We were like right in the corner by the Bobby Moore level. We were in the DT38 box.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. One of the boxes. Yeah. Okay. Got you.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good experience. That was for sure.
Oh, nice.
But yeah.
Anton's just jealous. Don't listen to Anton.
Anton, when are you coming down? When are we going to see you? No, only joking. Let's see what you guys are saying. Right then, here we go. Rich says, "Why are there so many security checks at the stadium versus any other?" To be fair, I don't even call it a security check. We can go up, and if you're there relatively near kickoff, they just go blah blah blah. Off you go.
Yeah, I know.
I don't even call it a security check.
It has been getting pretty bad lately, and I know this is one of Dodds' bugbears. And funny enough, I put a Freedom of Information about this because it came up on our podcast, and I asked, how many things do they actually find something? Weapons, fireworks, drugs, etc. And they refused to answer and said, we're not going to answer on grounds exemption that it could prevent detecting crimes. All I asked for is, how many people do you have on that security check? How effective is it? I.e., what do you find? How much does it cost? Right now, I've appealed this and said, well, actually, I don't think this is a secret. I don't think if that information got into the public domain, you would detect less crimes. The reason they're scared of releasing it, Jake, is because it probably is really ineffective. We probably spend tens of thousands of pounds each week on that, and you and I know it doesn't do anything because they're ineffective. Have you just said, if you're just before kickoff, they just wave you through.
Yeah.
I was with someone the other week, right? You know, you're not allowed to take plastic bottles in,
Uh-huh.
right? They walked in with a plastic bottle in their hand with a lid on, and they opened it up like this. They held it above their head, right? And they did the, the metal detector backwards and
The
forwards,
buzzer.
and didn't look
Yeah.
what was in their hands. You know, you can put anything in your hand, and they go. But I think it's a waste of time. I mean, more and more when we leave the sports club, I think I forget which game it was. We spent about 20 minutes in the queue, myself
Mm.
and Nigel and Canning Town, then Cummins Sports Club. And it's ineffective. On the night of the FA Cup youth final, you're probably aware, they did it slightly differently. They didn't check on the bridge. They checked at the turnstile, didn't they?
It was a bit cramped for a room because we got around there like, are we going to get security checked there or not? Or are we going to be allowed to take a plastic bottle in with a lid on?
Yeah.
And we got around there, and then there was somebody like ushering you through. You're like, it was all a bit cramped together, but it was like, this is a bit different. We walked straight through the bridge.
Look, they're just, for me, they're not consistent enough. It's like the other day, my son wanted a bottle of Prime. You know this Prime stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he wanted a bottle of Prime. So he sold me a bottle of Prime. He took the lid off and he went, "Do you want the lid?" And he gave me the lid separately. So I put it back on. And
separate purchase, never £4.50.
Yeah, I know. Go right. Do you want the lid? Yeah. Well, I've got to take the lid off, but I'll give you the lid separately as long as you don't put it back on. No, of course I won't. But no, I see it as a colossal waste of time, money, and it obviously is there to stop it. They see it as an iconic terrorist target, but I'm afraid, and I hate to say this, and I've said it before, if you're a terrorist, you just wait just before kickoff. I mean, how much surveillance would you need to know that you'd scout out how to do it, and you go, "Oh right, well actually, if you wait just before kickoff, you can get in without being checked." So any terrorist worth their weight would probably just use that loophole. So what's the point then?
Or even better, what you do is if you had something that you didn't want a security guard to find or whatever, you put a couple of jumpers over the top of it, put it in the bottom of the bag, and they just go, "Yeah, that's right," and off you go.
Or you say, and I'm sure you've had this. My son has only just turned 16. Before he turned 16, you go, he's under 16. They go, "All right,
Yeah.
through you go."
Through you go. Yeah.
They do metal check now, but they go, yeah. He's a kid. Yeah, all right, yeah. He's under 16. Wait, yeah. Just let him through. You're thinking, well, again, wouldn't I just give him something if I wanted to get it through?
It's baffling, isn't it? Right, let's address this. Jake loves Prime. I bought it once because I thought I had to. I'll tell you what, the amount of Primes I saw at that Youth Cup game, because there was quite a few kids there, and the amount of Prime they must have sold that night probably covered the stewarding bill itself, but I know the money doesn't go there anyway.
Let me tell you, Dodsey knows this story. I didn't know what Prime was because I don't do YouTube really. I took a picture of Prime at the London Stadium. Didn't use the word Prime, and I said £4.50. It tastes like punch, and that tweet got 5.5 million views. 5.5 million views, and I just went, "Why? What is it about Prime?" I think it's a young person thing, isn't it? Isn't it some YouTuber called KSI or something? And
yeah,
great marketing. There you go. We're talking
is.
about Karen Brady and London Stadium. Look at this Prime. They've over marketed a drink and got everyone buying
only
it.
if I tell you what, you can slander the London Stadium all you like, but there's only two clubs I think in the world that sell this amazing product. That's the Emirates and the London Stadium. We've got the Prime. We've got it.
Yeah, but do you know why though? Delaware North, American catering company, run both stadium catering, so they obviously got the deal.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is not a Prime show, is it?
It's not. This might be prime time, but this is not a Prime show. Let's talk a little bit about Moyes before we start wrapping things up. One thing from your personal opinion, or if you want anything you've heard, how close do you think they were to sacking him?
Look, there were stories about he was gonna go if he lost against Fulham, and obviously other games. I'm trying to think what the other games were. look, I won't hide. Everybody knows I know David Sullivan, and I know Karen Brady, and I know a number of people, and I knew David Gold quite well as well. And they're not sackers by default. And look, a long time, and you'll know that they've said openly, we support the manager. You know, we support him. We desperately want it to work. He's had 2 good seasons. We want to give him time because we believe in him. And that has been consistent throughout. You know, even when people go, he's got to get a number of points from these games, or he's got to get this. And, you know, something did change before the Fulham game. There was a change in tone from, let's just say, senior sources that sort of said, you know, we need to get something. We need points on the board. You know, this can't go on forever. That said, consistently, they've always said, no one's available. You know, Poch wouldn't come to us. Nor would they've got no interest in Jose Mourinho, all made up rubbish. They wouldn't have Harry Redknapp. They don't think people like Mark Noble or Noland or even Kevin Keane are ready. And look, I heard one YouTube channel say, and I won't name them, that Rafa Benitez was being lined up, and he was ready to take over should have we lost at Fulham, right? Baloney, absolute baloney. Rafa Benitez wants a 3 or 4 year contract. He's hesitant of coming to West Ham anyway. So look, I no one is unsackable, but I think they are, I would say, paralysed by indecision of looking at a lot of the other clubs that have sacked their managers. Are they in any better position? Is Everton in any better position? Is Leicester City in any better position? You know, will you get that manager bounce? Will it make a difference? And I hindsight's a wonderful thing because we're past the Fulham game now. But I really believe they were desperate to keep into the end of the season, and they will. Right? I don't think anything will happen now to see him leave before the end of the season. At the end of the season, will be in his final year. He's on about £5 million a year. 4 million of that is basic, and another 1 million a bonus. And on average, you try and buy out a contract for about 75% of the remaining. So it's about £3 million in the summer. David Sullivan and the board always do an end of season review. They look at how the season went and they look at the manager. And that is the time I believe that they will take a really hard, long look at whether they replace the manager over the summer or whether they let him continue for his final year. I don't think the decision's been made yet. Alex Crook from TalkSport has said they've all agreed something by mutual agreement. I'm told that's bullshit. It won't happen yet, but I think there is a likelihood that they may dispense with his services over the summer.
As a fan, can you see in any way tenable to keep him in his role?
As a fan, no. I think he's been found out, and we've hoped beyond hope that he can show us that he's not one-dimensional, right? We keep on going, okay, stop playing Souček, right? He's not going to see it. Stop playing Souček, play Finn Downs, right? Play 2 up front. And he's almost trying to prove everyone wrong. Go, well, I play 2 up front, and look, we were shit. And you just go, yeah, but David, you just let's think like Bournemouth. Let's think like a more progressive team. And he just seems to be stubborn that he wants to prove people wrong by being a dinosaur. And everybody's found him out. So as a fan, I say, thank you. Well done. You've done really good for West Ham. We won't forget you, but it's time for new ideas. And let's bring in a progressive manager that can get the best out of the money we've invested last summer and move the team on. And it might be that we sack a manager who won the Europa Conference League and got us into Europe for a 3rd year running. But
do you think that will sway their decision making if we win it?
I don't. I think the biggest there is one scenario, a doomsday scenario, and I don't think I've talked about this before. This is your one exclusive, Jake.
Oh, thank you.
There's a doomsday scenario where Rob Newman becomes the fall man and the scapegoat. And they sack Rob Newman as the head of recruitment and blame the whole disaster for this season on him and not David Moyes.
We spoke to Barry Siltman before Christmas about the whole
good old
Paqueta deal.
Yeah.
We spoke to him about the Paqueta deal, and I sort of tried to push him a little bit on Newman, and he said every signing because of course there was
good old Barry Silky. Yeah, look, I can't say too much on air. It's a cutthroat business in the recruitment world between agents. They're not big fans of people like people like Rob Newman.
And I think there's been question marks that have been put on from the fans that hang on, we've pumped £100 million into this summer, and I sat here and questioned the signings when they came in and went, has Moyes really picked up these players and went, I think they'll fit into my let's defend and lump it up to a striker system? And I was like, I couldn't quite fathom it out then. I had my fears about it, and in the end those fears have been proven right, because we've signed a bunch of players that don't fit this system quite clearly, and we continue to do it in January by signing Danny Ings, which I didn't understand.
Look, without a doubt, Sullivan has stepped back a lot, but when deals need to be made, then he calls on people like Barry Siltman, and someone needs to sign the check, right? I do believe David Moyes signs off on each and every player. I do believe that all the scouting was done by Rob Newman. Look, and I saw a change myself where, and again, one of these things, how sausages are made. Lots of people come up with ideas for West Ham on who should play for West Ham. And before they would be filtered to David Sullivan on email, right? I've even done it. I went to a Czech Republic, a Slava Prague on a stag do, and I saw a really great guy who scored a hat trick, and I sent his name and details to David Sullivan, who then proceeded to copy me into Mario Husilius and say, Sean saw this guy, have a look at him. And it came back, he was shit, right? He wouldn't make it in the Premier League. But that's how people did it, agents, etc. used to talk to David Sullivan. Since Rob Newman's taken over, all of those are directed to Rob Newman, and I have seen that. So all the agents don't talk to Sullivan; they talk to Rob Newman. All the people coming up with these bright ideas, some of them, not just me, but and I'm not going to name names, but some other either media people or ITKs also have ideas on who should sign for West Ham. They all get filtered through Rob Newman now.
There we go. And I think what we'll finish on is a prediction for tomorrow, just to soften things up a bit. Eh?
Ooh. Do you know what? If you've ever listened to my podcast, you'll know that I only go for one prediction. Do you know what it is?
I don't. I feel like I'm underprepared here.
Yeah, it's 1-0 to the Hammers. So it's a little joke that I always predict 1-0 to the Hammers. I can never bet against the Hammers. And when I used to play Super 6, I always used to go for 1-0. Statistically, 1-0 was the most common scoreline.
Rich knows. Rich listens to your podcast.
He does, yeah. 1-0. There you go. 1-0. 1-0 the Hammers. Look, it would be great. It's my heart rather than my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go for 1-0 to the Hammers. How about you, Jake?
I gave two predictions last night where I won. I wanted to be a 1-1, and then also I gave a 3-0 because I can see it going two ways. Yeah. To West Ham.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Deluded.
No, I did say 3-0 to Arsenal or a 1-1 draw. I do think they'll beat us in the end. And how comfortable it is up to perception, but I don't know. If they score early, it's going to be a hell of a long afternoon. But you never know. There's a few people that want you to say Brady out.
I ain't doing it. Ain't doing it. I don't do it on the podcast. I ain't going to do it here.
And
She's
the
a
big question as well.
misunderstood woman.
Does she have a hot dog in the stadium?
I don't even know what that means. Oh, have I eaten a hot dog in the stadium?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have actually. The American sort of 12-inch one. I've once I did eat one of those large hot dogs. Yeah.
£8.50 down the.
I think they're £9.50 now.
Are they? Oh,
In our
Christ.
side, yeah.
Oh,
They used to
God.
do a lovely salt beef bagel.
Oh yeah, I've seen your pictures every now and then. I think
Yeah,
so,
and they were
yeah.
amazing, but they've stopped them now and moved to pulled pork, which is also nice, but it's £9.50. And my son, right, he plays football. He might, maybe I don't know. Do you play Xbox?
I don't know.
He plays Xbox to like this morning we were playing football early, 9 o'clock kickoff. Right, he plays for an under-16 side, and he was up to 6:30 in the morning. He had to get up at 7:30, right? So he's had an hour's sleep. So this is what happens, right? We're going to West Ham tomorrow, right? So just before he'll wake up just before we leave. So I said we're going to leave about 9:30, 10 o'clock. We'll leave then, and he will say, "I've not eaten." So we then go right to the stadium, and they go, "Yeah, I'm hungry. I want to eat something." And I go, oh, "Couldn't we have done that earlier? Couldn't you have had breakfast? Because like it's now going to cost me £9.50 to buy you a chicken
crap
burger,
pulled pork
yeah,
burger.
exactly." Because we're always in a rush because we want to go supporters club or somewhere else. But anyway, it's all part of it, I guess. All part of the experience.
Let's take some more of these comments. Steve says even before Schumacher got injured, he preferred to play a 33-year-old up top in Antonio, who's got 3 Premier League goals. Says, the striker debacle. You could talk about that all night, couldn't you? You know, it's sort of frustrated
he is.
us.
Look, again, it goes. He's stubborn, right? He is really, really stubborn, and he wants to prove everyone wrong. But at some point, you go, you're going to lose your job, and you're not going to get another job, mate. But maybe he doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Callingtown Len's not a fan of you tonight.
Oh, look, I've done an article for him all about. Did you know about this painting he did? Have you seen his blog today? He's done a painting. I'm going to give him a bit of promotion. He did a painting called Chelsea Guy Got Knocked Out. You saw where
that one, yeah,
and it was an AFC Wimbledon fan.
Yeah.
And the painting went for 7,100 on eBay.
On eBay.
Well, today, have you heard who the recipient, whose house it's hanging in?
I haven't, no.
Ray Winston.
He paid £7,100 for it.
Ray Winston.
Oh, that's class.
Has got the painting in his Italian villa. There you go.
Oh.
Couldn't make it up, could you?
I saw it when it was sort of unfolding. I was having a look as the bidding time was going down on it, and I was like saying, "Dad, 5,000, 6,000."
Did you ask your dad to put a bid in?
I didn't in the end, no.
No. Well, it was only 7,100. You could have put in a cheeky, commission from this show would play for it alone, would it not?
Well, what can I say? What can I say? No, I think that would have stretched a bit too much. If it would have been under £7,000, then I think we might have had a discussion.
Right,
but it was just that extra £100.
It pushed her over. Okay. Yeah. Everyone has to have their limit. I get it.
Exactly. That was the limit, I think. That was the limit. Apparently I've been on the shandy tonight. I can confirm I haven't been. I'm trying to find some positivity ahead of tomorrow. To be fair, I'm sort of looking forward to it in the sense of if we do and we turn up, if we do the unthinkable, what a day it's going to be.
Oh yeah, we're going to dine out in it. I tell you what, at work I've got some really annoying Arsenal fans, and it will make my Monday to walk in there, just give it a little bit of swagger and go, bit like when we the old song about when we cocked up Champions League for Spurs. I'd love to be the team that stopped them winning the Premier League. It would just be so sweet.
Yeah, my best mate's an Arsenal fan. I'd love to walk into school first day back, new term, tomorrow.
Exactly.
Monday, walk back and go, think City are going to win the title, mate.
Yeah. I don't know any City fans. I just know Arsenal fans. I mean, exactly. Because City fans tend to be in Manchester, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's the Manchester United fans that live in London. The Manchester City fans tend to live in Manchester because they're not glory hunters.
Sean, Snog, marry, avoid, Canning Town, Len, Nigel Khan, and Richard Dodds.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh,
You're on fire tonight, Rich. You're on fire.
Yeah, well, I know Rich has got no money, so I'm not marrying him. You see, Nigel's got no money either, so I won't marry him. So I reckon Canning Town Len I would marry because he sold that, his
£7.5
paintings.
grand.
I think he's worth a bit more money. He's got a nice car as well, so definitely out of the three, I'd marry Canning Town Len. God, I can't imagine snogging either of those two.
Have you not seen the Richard Dodds mobile? Have you not seen that car? He's got a lovely car.
Has he?
Yeah.
Has he?
Lamborghini is his second car. That's his second option.
Oh, it's a real tough one. But maybe it would have to be Snog Richard because he's got all his teeth and avoid Nigel Khan.
Well, there we go. There we go. Thank you very much indeed, everybody.
What a way to end. What a way to end. Exactly. If someone's just joined now, they go, "What the hell have we just seen?
What is going on? What has Jake been drinking tonight?" But yeah, thank you very much indeed, everybody, for watching. It's not it's not a Tesla. You have got a Tesla. That's your third option, Rich. And that's
Yeah, that's it. I have. Yeah, I love the Tesla.
Love the Tesla.
Can't go wrong with a Tesla. Richard doesn't. He likes to hold on. Have you ever met Rich? Have you?
We have, yes.
Yeah, you wouldn't have bought you a drink though, would he?
I think he bought me a meal deal once. Actually, no. He had some vouchers and he didn't even spend.
Oh, well, there you go. That's Rich for you. He wouldn't have opened his wallet. Moths would have flown out. He's a pensioner, He likes selling people. Oh, I'm a pensioner. He parks for free in queue, so he doesn't have to spend, and goes, and that's in Surrey, and has to go miles and miles and miles just so he can park for free by from driving from Somerset. Unbelievable.
We drive from Somerset as well, so I commend his effort every day. We do, yeah.
Do you park for free though?
Well, sometimes, occasionally, he's shown us the ropes with Kew Gardens.
Oh, right, the Kew Gardens route. Oh, I didn't know that.
He did,
whereabouts in Somerset?
Well, what's the best to sort of say? We were about 10 minutes away from Rich, but he's moved further down. We live near Wincanton.
Oh, right, I know it. Yeah. So nice.
So yeah,
cool.
Rich is just down there a bit, and
you go for cups of tea and meal deals, obviously. With Rich, I can just imagine that.
What a life he's got, though. He plays golf. He goes to West Ham.
He plays golf. He talks to the Swans. He watches West Ham, and he goes on. He watches movies on his own with his all-you-can-watch Odeon Unlimited or whatever. That's his life.
What a guy. What a life. There we go. We love you, Rich. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for watching. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to West Ham Official if you're new. Quite frankly, Sean, I think we could sit here and discuss any subject, and we'll be here by the time kickoff.
Yeah, well, if you've heard some of our podcasts, they go on for about 2 or 3 hours, so you're making a good choice to end it after an hour.
No, thank you very much indeed for joining me, and I hope that you get some sort of bagel or pulled pork burger tomorrow. I expect to see a picture on Twitter.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, if we get something a little bit different, I'll let you know.
Yeah, and a bottle of Prime to go with it as well.
Yeah, and make sure you listen at least to one episode of More Than Just a Podcast, Jake.
I will.
I'm a bit disappointed you haven't listened to it yet. We've got 8 listeners, and if you join on Monday, it will be 9.
Wow,
It's on Spotify. It's on
Spotify.
Apple.
Wow.
It's on all of the. You tuned in. We're on all the platforms. Listen to it. It's only 3 hours of your life every week, right? You fit it in somewhere on your way to school, whatever, and you will understand a lot about how and Doddsy makes quite a bit of appearance in there because he asks a question that lasts about an hour as well.
And the final question goes: has Mr. Whetstone been lucky in the ballot? Did you get a ticket for Bournemouth away in the ballot?
I'm always lucky. They call me Lucky Sean. I'm not going to Bournemouth. I think I'm away, but I'm just a lucky person when it comes down to ticket ballots, etc. It's just
luck of the draw
follows me. Yeah, luck of the draw.
Luck at the draw. Right, Rich is gonna get Jake to ask a question. Okay, sounds good, Rich. But yeah, this guy never stops. Again, it was back
No,
home yesterday, whatever.
I know.
Sunday, back
I know.
up there on Thursday. A relatively short trip down to Bournemouth on next Sunday for.
He must not like his wife. I mean, poor old Penny. I'm not sure she ever gets to see him. Between the golf, going to the cinema, and going to West Ham, I'm not sure he ever sees his poor wife.
Wow. We'll let him respond to that. But
Yeah,
yeah.
he will. Without a doubt.
We're back slumming it tomorrow. To be fair, still, it was mildly amusing getting to wave at you from the corporate box last week or the week after, whenever it was. But yeah, we're back down there tomorrow. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching from us. Plenty of topics discussed, plenty of stuff discussed tonight from us. Come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons.
And you never know what might happen tomorrow. Funnier things have happened in the world of West Ham.
Thanks for having me on, Jake.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming on. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching in the chat. Rich, now everybody who has joined us throughout. Peter, Alex, Ken, everybody else in there. And yeah, there we go. We've got the final comment. We can now go. Rich has given us a seal of approval.
Go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Time to go to bed. See you soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.